Hello everyone, welcome to ELA Explained. Today we will talk about different types of characters in literature. I have split this topic into 3 videos, so make sure to check out parts 2 and 3 if you like this one. First, let's look at the definition of the term character. A literary character is a personage in a narrative or dramatic work, like the time traveller in The Time Machine by Wells or Alice in Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. But a character does not necessarily have to be a person. It can be an animal, like Bock, the main character in Jack London's novel, The Call of the Wild. Characters are pivotal to any story. They develop the plot, they create conflict, and they resolve them by overcoming challenges. Characters develop themes, and they can symbolize different qualities. And that is why it is important to understand what types of characters you are dealing with and what purposes they serve when you analyze a literary work. I have separated the most widely used character types into 3 categories: by their importance to the story, by their qualities, and by their function in the story. Whenever we analyze a character, we do not judge them in general, but rather look at the way they are represented in a given narrative. The same character can look very different in 2 books written by the same author. For example, in the first book of the Harry Potter series and in the last one, the reader gets almost opposite impressions of Severus Snape. By the way, I will be using a lot of examples from Harry Potter, mainly because characters from these books are easily recognized, but I will also provide examples from other books and movies. So, let's look at the protagonist, the central person in a story, often referred to as the main character. This is who the story is about and who the reader is supposed to care about the most. The word protagonist comes from ancient Greek and literally means principal actor in a drama. The Greek root protos is often mistaken for the Latin prefix pro, which can lead to a misconception that protagonists are always the good guys in a story. But the protagonist may not always be a heroic character. The protagonist of the Harry Potter series is obviously Harry Potter himself. It's important to keep in mind that there doesn't have to be only one protagonist. It can be 2 people, like in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, or even a group of people, like Peter, Susan, Edmund and Lucy in the Chronicles of Narnia. The antagonist is the principal opponent of the main character. In Greek, the word antagonist means opponent or rival, and it is ultimately derived from the word struggle. The conflict between the protagonist and the antagonist is the driving force behind the plot of a story. The most prominent character opposing Harry Potter is Voldemort. Just like the protagonist, the antagonist can be represented by a group of people, an animal, an inanimate object, like the deserted island in Robinson Crusoe, or even a natural force. Jack London's short story To Build a Fire is about a man trying to survive in harsh weather conditions, and the antagonist in this story is nature itself. Just like protagonists are often mistaken for the good guys or heroes, antagonists are often seen as the bad guys or villains. This is not always the case. If a story is about a villain, the antagonist will most likely be a hero. It can get even more complicated if a story has anti-heroes and anti-villains. So let's have a look at these 2 terms. An anti-hero is a major character, very often the protagonist, who lacks the qualities we normally associate with a hero: bravery, selflessness, nobility. An anti-hero is a more questionable good guy. A good example of an anti-hero is Severus Snape, who initially seems like a villain and whose true nature is revealed only by the end of the story. Shrek is another example of an anti-hero. He thinks only about himself and even goes on his quest out of selfish reasons. But the audience definitely sees him as the good guy, especially by the end of the story. Captain Jack Sparrow is an anti-hero as well. He is a pirate whose crimes are numerous in quantity and sinister in nature. Yet his actions, his flamboyant nature, and most importantly, the decisions he makes throughout the story reveal him to be a hero rather than a villain. If an anti-hero often fights on the good side for the wrong reasons, an anti-villain does the opposite. He or she is evil, but for a good reason. Anti-villains are not absolute monsters. They can have good intentions, heroic goals and virtues, and they can even evoke the reader's sympathy. Draco Malfoy in the last 2 Harry Potter books can be seen as an anti-villain because he is motivated by his desire to protect his family. Killmonger from Black Panther is a victim of circumstance. The audience can understand what drives him in his quest for revenge, and some people may even share his views. Thanos fits into his category as well, as his ultimate goal is to bring balance to the universe. Now, going back to the characters' importance to the story, let's talk about Deuteragonists. Characters who support the protagonist by giving them advice or fighting on their side. Deuteragonists usually appear in multiple episodes and play an important role in the main storyline. In Harry Potter, good examples of Deuteragonists are Ron and Hermione. They're very important to the plot, they're constantly seen together with the protagonist, but the story is still about Harry Potter, not Ron and Hermione. Dr. Watson helps Sherlock Holmes solve crimes, and even saves his life on a few occasions, but the plot still revolves around Sherlock Holmes, not Dr. Watson. Lady Macbeth appears in multiple scenes of Shakespeare's tragedy, pushing her husband to commit horrendous crimes. In fact, it is difficult to imagine the tragedy without her, but there is no doubt that the play is still about Macbeth rather than his wife. A Tritagonist is the third important character in a narrative. Tritagonists appear only in a few episodes of a story, usually serving one specific purpose, but their role is far less significant to the plot than that of protagonists or Deuteragonists. Luna Lovegood is important in quite a few episodes of the Harry Potter series, but not nearly as important as Harry, Ron or Hermione. Master Yoda in episode 2 stays in the Jedi Temple throughout the whole story and becomes important only in the very end when he takes the clone army to Geonosis and fights Dooku. Miss Moneypenny is another Tritagonist. She appears in every James Bond novel, but her role is rather limited. She tells Bond that everyone is looking for him and that M is in a bad mood, and then she disappears. So, these were the main character types based on their importance to the story. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, you might like the next one, where I will talk about how characters can be categorized based on their function in the story. Thank you for watching, and I hope you will return to my channel. Goodbye.